Welcome back, family. I want to warn you before you watch this that what you're about to see is extremely powerful, and it's something that I don't want credit for. It's not like I'm just some mastermind seeing all these things. It's by our Father's divine guidance that these things are coming about, and I am thankful that He has done the things He has done for us to allow us to see just how much our Father knows about His creation for as long as He has, because it's His creation. He made it. And so this is going to make a lot of sense, I hope, and it's going to clarify the grafting in scenario and how there's a scientific aspect to a certain part of the word. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, I want to explain not just grafting in, but reproduction, because we're preparing a science lesson for creation standard about genetics. And one of the aspects associated with it is the inability of different kinds of organisms to reproduce together. And so you have to usually be of the same kind and the same species to reproduce. And there's reasons. There's prezygotic barriers and postzygotic barriers, or essentially preconception barriers, things that would stop you before conception. And then there's things, if there were conception, that would stop you afterward. And it's by design. However, mankind is always doing things they can to corrupt all flesh. But essentially, the organisms, one of the prezygotic barriers for reproduction is the number of chromosomes. For example, you and I have 46 chromosomes in each of our body cells. However, our reproductive cells were intelligently designed to have half that number so that two halves can come together and make a whole. So your offspring will be 50-50, a mix between the mom and the dad. And that is the way it was by extreme intelligent design. And they come together in a miraculous way. It's not like every child is going to be half boy, half girl since they're half mom, half dad. Our Father designed those chromosomes in a way that makes you either or. And it's masterfully done. It's mind-boggling to picture that working, but that is how those two come together. And when it comes to grafting in, you have similar barriers. The trees or plants that are being grafted into each other have to be of the same kind. For example, I could not take a pear tree and then say, you know what, I want this tree to also have walnuts growing on it and graft in a walnut tree branch or an olive tree branch, any other different type of tree. It's not going to work. It has to be of the same kind. And so grafting in, very similar to reproduction with people, animals, other organisms, plants, and whatnot. And grafting in isn't something that happens in nature. It's something where we have to intervene to do. And this is often done when the original branches aren't producing fruit. They can take a tree that has some good, young, healthy branches, graft them in, and it'll bear fruit. That is awesome that this happens. And it reminds me of something in Romans talking about being grafted in. And again, it's about to get really scientific after this. Your mind is most likely going to be blown like mine was when I saw this. And it has to do with what Paul is saying here in Romans about being grafted in. And the specific type of tree he mentions is an olive tree. And it's about the pride of those who have been grafted in. At least that's what I'm getting from it. He's warning about that, not to be prideful for being grafted in as if you're just something more special than the original branches. Don't take for granted what you have. And so I'm going to read this just so you can get the gist of what he's saying here when he says, "And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them," so you were taken from a wild olive tree and grafted in to an olive tree where the branches had been broken off, "and with them partakest of the root and fatness of the olive tree." So now you have this tree that's been taken care of. It's got really healthy roots, and you've been taken from this wild olive tree, grafted in to this good one. "Boast not against the branches," because there's still some branches there that were of the original. Think about that. You're not just grafted in and all the branches were taken off. You're mixed in with existing branches, with a root system that was already in place. "But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee." In other words, that root is what is bringing up that water, giving you that life. It was already there. "Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in." There's that pride. Those branches were broken off because of me and how great I am. And that's not the way it is. And so it goes on to say, well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and now standest by faith. And so there's that being saved by the faith aspect. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if God spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of God on them which fell, severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise, thou also shall be cut off, and they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. For if thou were cut out of the olive tree, there's the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature, meaning this wasn't going to happen on its own. The Most High had to reach out for you and bring you in. And that is contrary to nature, just like it takes someone who is a gardener to do this, someone who knows about trees, a tree expert, a plant expert. It's contrary to nature. And to graft you into a good olive tree, how much more shall these which be natural branches be grafted into their own olive tree? And so he's using the olive tree as an example to display this concept of grafting in. And this is where it gets powerful. Remember, we talked about us having 46 chromosomes? Well, just looking into how many chromosomes different organisms have, found out that the olive tree has 46 chromosomes. Is that not powerful? Our Father inspiring his servants to give an example that uses the only tree on this list that has 46 chromosomes to give a concept about grafting in when he could have used any other tree out there. But there was only one that had 46 chromosomes, just like us. Is that not the most beautiful thing you could ever see in something like this? Powerful. It shows that there's divine guidance here, and it proves that this book is beyond any science book out there. We allegedly didn't even know about chromosomes back then. This was many hundreds of years before they say the microscope was invented. And we didn't even find out about DNA, allegedly, until very recent times. And so this chromosome count being the same on the olive tree is just proof that we are dealing with a book that goes beyond any other book out there. And I wanted to share this because I wanted you guys to see how beautiful this is and how blessed we are to be grafted in. It's not something we should boast about. We are being grafted in to a family that's going to be unified and come together. We can't think we're better than other groups of people who were either already there, broken off, whatever the case is. Understand how blessed you are. And so I wanted to share that. I know you guys will think this is powerful too, because it is. And grafting in, there's a lot of us right there. That's what we looked like. However, there were more branches. They didn't just cut the top of the tree off and put in brand new branches and that was it. There were still other branches, and you can do that to a tree as well. Grafting in those branches, binding them to the tree, powerful stuff. But that's all I wanted to share. There's more, but there's just a lot of work to be done. But I thought I just have to share this and send it to you guys so that you can just marvel at what the Holy Spirit is doing and has done. And so that's it. I love you guys. The Most High loves you. He is looking forward to meeting you, his inheritance, because that's what you are, his inheritance. He's not waiting on gold and treasures and all of that. He's waiting on meeting you. So get to know him now and do so in a way that's personal. Don't just make it a ritual where you say a little bedtime prayer. Step out and get to know who he really is and what more he's capable of doing.